Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Nanette Kennedy with Humanities Team and the Evolution Revolution, and we are reading What God Said, and it is January 23rd, 2022, and I'm going to have our illustrious reader get us centered and where we need to be on what page.
Okay, hi everybody. So we're reading What God Said by Neale Walsch. We're on page 55, Applying the Message to Everyday Life. If I were asked what actions the average person could take to bring peace to their lives and to our world faster than any other, I would choose these invitations in message 24 from the 1,000-word summary of Conversations with God. Here are some suggestions for application of this insight into your daily experience. Print out a copy of the 5 Steps to Peace and post them somewhere in your home, on the refrigerator, in the mirror in your bathroom, etc., where you will see them every day. And then read them every day as if you've never seen them before. Even if you've read them so often that you can recite them, read them again. Keep bringing them to the forefront of your mind. This is where you make decisions about how to react to daily life. Next, post the 5 Steps to Peace in the guest room in your house, the guest bath, or elsewhere visitors to your home might be expected to see them. This may generate spontaneous conversations about them with friends who read them and ask what all of this is about and where you got them. Have a number of extra copies of the steps printed in advance and located in a place where you can easily find them, so that if someone says, "I wish I had a copy of those," you can say you do now and hand them one. Start a Steps to Peace journal and make an entry when you find yourself challenged by the 5 steps, especially step 5. Ask yourself in writing, what aspect of what I truly believe about God and about life am I having a difficult time embracing right now? What, if anything, could I do tomorrow to embrace and live this belief? Then answer your own questions with a short essay in the journal. Start an Evolution Revolution group in your community and invite its members to meet once a week or twice a month and discuss the entries in their Steps to Peace journal. Design ways to support each other within the group in embracing the highest beliefs you hold about God and about life, and in demonstrating them daily. Post the 5 Steps to Peace on the church house doors in your community, as Martin Luther posted his 95 Theses on the doors of All Saints Church in Wittenberg, Germany in 1517. His action ignited the Reformation. Your action can ignite the civil rights movement for the soul. Ask the pastor for permission to do so. If permission is not given, ask why not. What about the 5 Steps to Peace is not acceptable? Start an Evolution Revolution group at your church and discuss these steps, whether or not you've been allowed to post them on the church doors. Hand the 5 Steps to Peace to friends. Put them under windshields in cars at shopping centers. Publish them in letters to the editor in your newspaper. Purchase small ads in the paper, in your church bulletin, etc., listing the steps. Call radio shows and discuss the 5 Steps to Peace. Truly be the instigator of a civil rights movement for the soul in your community, state, or nation based on the 5 Steps to Peace. Place a petition on the internet. Get the energy around this idea moving. End of chapter.
Thank you. And my Kindle died. And it says I can charge it and still read, but it's not letting me do that. So I don't know what the problem is. I've pressed every button.
You can get the app on your laptop as well, you know. That's what I use.
Maybe that's what I should do. Okay. All right. So for today's discussion, do we want to, oops. Do we want to, I think we should go back to what we've already read, like the 5 steps to peace. And welcome, Sandy. Let's see. Who would like to start?
The doggy.
The dog wants to start.
I wonder if the dog is pro peace or against peace.
Pro.
Would it be helpful if I went back and read the 5 steps?
I think it probably would.
Yes.
Okay, so the 5 steps to peace are found on page 41. Permit yourself to acknowledge that some of your old beliefs about God and about life are no longer working. Explore the possibility that there is something you do not fully understand about God and about life, the understanding of which could change everything. Announce that you are willing for new understandings of God and life to now be brought forth, understandings that could produce a new way of life on this planet. Courageously examine these new understandings, and if they align with your personal inner truth and knowing, enlarge your belief system to include them. And the last one is express your life as a demonstration of your highest beliefs, rather than a denial of them.
Okay. Anybody want to start?
I would like to say something, if I can. I have, I don't know, a trouble to find people who are interested in, I don't know, in books of Neale Donald Walsch or some other spiritual practices. I was some 25 years ago in the Transcendental Meditation Group in another town, and we were together. But when I moved here in Rovin, in another town, I can't find people who are interested in these practices. Well, here people are going, I know people going to Catholic Church. Yes, I know these people, but I'm not actively searching, but I don't meet people who are interested in these readings, and so, well, over.
I like the idea of like printing out these five steps to peace. That's what he called them. And like handing them to people and asking, what do you think about this? Like I could see maybe handing them to people in my life who I feel like I could have a conversation with and ask them, you know, what do you guys think about this? Not guys, it's usually probably going to be one person at a time, you know. Does this resonate with you at all? And just see what people think about it, because that could be a way to start the conversation with people who aren't really interested in this kind of thing. Maybe they'd be interested in discussing these steps, which I really do feel are, you know, utterly the core, because so much of it is that people in their religious thoughts are very, you know, narrow, like they believe the thing they believe, and they haven't really thought that much about how it is damaging. That's the real thing, is that the way people are so tribalistic about their religion is very damaging to life. So that what I was thinking. I like the idea of printing those out and, you know, maybe leaving them places and handing them to people I know and seeing, I'm curious, what do you think about this? And so when you asked that, that came to me. I don't think I have anything else to say. There was something, but I think it's gone.
We did that in Evo Revo. 5 steps a piece as an activity.
Yeah. I was just
That's
going
for
to say,
years.
yeah,
For
we
years.
did that. And we would
Drop off books.
drop off books. We'd drop off flyers. I made several copies of the 5 steps a piece.
Me too.
And
I
just
think
left
that's all
them.
of them.
Yeah, I just left them in different places. And
Awakening Day.
yeah, Awakening Day used to be the 7th or the 12th of every month. I can't remember.
12.
Yeah. And anyway, we did that. And the only thing about that is you don't get to see somebody's response to them.
You know.
Yeah,
Didn't
if
you
you
though,
just leave them.
Annette, didn't you drop up places and see some people pick them up and stuff? And the park benches, when you go back and they're not there, then you know they picked them up, right?
Yes, and I don't remember.
I remember a couple of stories you said you left on somebody.
Yeah, I remember leaving books and sitting in my car.
Yeah,
I would put them on picnic tables or on park benches and stuff like that. And
because you'd post the pictures in the Facebook group, you'd say, "Look."
Yeah, I know, and people would look at them. So, you don't know what kind of effect you're having, but and it takes a little thrill out of it. But sitting back and just watching to see if anybody picks it up and reads it is kind of a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I don't know that for most of us, this is the right time of the year, especially where it's 20 below zero.
Yeah.
But it is a fun thing to do if anybody wants to try it.
It was raining. I remember you used to do plastic. You put plastic over your stuff.
Yeah, I put mine in Ziploc bags.
It was raining. You have to deal with it, whatever weather it is, you know.
Yep, I use Ziploc bags. But because I can't afford to buy a bunch of books, I usually would do things like the 5 steps a piece.
Yeah.
And print them off myself. And I actually made one. What did I completely spaced out because I noticed
card. You did the card. That was cool.
I did little wooden pieces that said "Love is the answer." And I put it with it. But anyway, does anybody else have anything they want to add at this point? Because my memory is failing me, and because I can't download, I'm having troubles downloading the app. I'm wondering if we need to read a few more minutes of that first part of step 1 of the 5 steps a piece. And welcome, Lena.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Or shall we just continue to read if anybody got any ideas? I'm open. Okay.
Well, I only want to say I have bought several copies of books of Neale Donald Walsch, and I gave as a gift to some people. I think that some people read, but I have no person who are so engaged in this. Maybe to put on social media as I translate in Croatian, maybe. social media.
All right.
Well,
it's hard to find like-minded people, you know. Even where I live, I'm sure there are plenty of like-minded people, but finding them and connecting with them can be challenging. And that's why this group is so valuable, because here we meet every week and we know that we're not the only one. And I've, you know, I try to talk to people about these ideas. I've given people books and things, and I kind of stopped giving people books and things because like people, it's like anything, people have to be ready for it. And you can issue invitations, but ultimately we can't drag people along, alas. I've tried a little dragging with certain people in my life. I didn't drag that hard, but you know, kind of have to accept this is not their path, but I don't know. Linda's there, maybe she has something to say.
I was just going to say there's the timing of it too. So what I've discovered, because I've gifted these books to people, I've gifted them to my grandkids. And what I've discovered is that people may not read them when you give them to them. But just them knowing that they have it can make a difference in somebody's life. Knowing that they have that resource on the shelf. And I think, you know, just to reiterate what Neale and also Matt Kahn have said recently, which is that we're in an era now where unless someone is asking you a question, don't be offering up your spiritual solutions to them.
Yeah.
Because you're just wasting your breath and energy. Yeah. If someone isn't in that place of query, they're not going to hear you anyway. And you're just frustrating yourself. But Neale, you know, Neale has over the years made lots of suggestions about how to go about starting your own group, your own evolution revolution group. And there's a whole, you know, myriad of ways to do it. And with social media, you don't even have to, there's some other ways you can do it. You can just tell your community, you know, hey, every day from this hour to this hour, I'm going to be available for questions. And we can talk about, I have questions, I'm sure you have questions, let together and talk about our questions. So I totally empathize with your frustration. I ran a circle for years, and there would be paid. Sometimes nobody would show. Other times people would show, but there were many, many times when I was the only one in the room, and I stayed the only one in the room because no one else showed up.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And my experience was with leading laughter classes and dancing meditation classes, and it's the same thing. And that's here in San Diego, where you'd think there'd be more people, but there's also a lot more resources, and there's plenty of places to go, and people come and love it, and they still never come back because life is so full of things and opportunities and information. This is what I was thinking about when Linda was talking. Information overload is a real thing. And I have just stopped, like even the emails I get from people that I used to read and stuff, it's like, I just can't really intake any more information right now. It's just like, nope, I have a wall because I'm like full to here. And I come here to this group, I can take this on, you know, but it's like, and I know that a lot of other people are also in that state of like, you know, overwhelm and.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway.
Go ahead, Romy.
Okay, I very much agree to what Mary and Linda said. I think it's just the overload. I think it's very much a thing, but to bring up small groups and so, I think it's online, it's always possible on something, and to find out where people really like to meet, but just to find, otherwise I think throughout our lives, we always will meet people, we can talk about it, but just to give something over, and when people don't ask for it, I wouldn't do it, because I think then they are not, that's really what you said, Bernadette, it's something, it's also can be, yeah, it's some ways that it's not sure, but I mean, yeah, it's when I feel that people like to talk about this subject, then I can talk about it. And if they like to talk about it, I think then I also could hand them about these 5 questions or so. But otherwise, no, people go their ways, and yeah.
I agree with that. And I think a question that I want to pose is to this group specifically, because Neale does, I remember this much about the last chapter. Neale mentions about, how you feel when you read that first book, the Conversations with God, book 1. And for me, the eye-opening, just blew me away thing was every page I read, I was like, well, that's weird. That's what I think. And then I'd say, well, that's weird. I agree with that too. That's exactly what I think. Or any number of things that are mentioned in book 1. And it, for me, felt like I finally found something that was already in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very powerful for me, because I didn't write them down like Neale did, but I already believed all the things that God was saying to Neale. And so to me, it was like a confirmation that I'd found the right book. Over. Okay. Well, let's read on if everybody agrees. Okay.
Rock on, Linda.
Yeah, rock on. Okay.
Chapter 8, page 59. In the book, The Storm Before the Calm, I made it very clear that in the final years of the 20th century and the initial quarter of the 21st century, our species has been and will continue to be undergoing what could be called the overhaul of humanity. This process is not about the destruction of our global community and its way of life, but about the purposeful disassembling of it piece by piece, leading to the reassembling of it with new parts, much as an engine is overhauled so that it works better. It's not a process in which we are uninvolved, even if all we do is simply observe it. On the contrary, it is a process in which all humans are collaboratively engaged. Most of us simply don't know it because our participation is unconscious rather than conscious. There is nothing to be afraid of here if the people of our world engage in this process with the knowledge of what is happening and with clarity about the outcome they wish to produce. The process is going to occur, however, indeed it is occurring right now, whether we participated in this way or not. With or without us, life is going to change. The question is not whether the experience of our species is going to be different. The question is, in what ways will it be different, and who will make those decisions? Conversations with God and other books and movies, programs, and social projects have come along during this time to assist us in taking a look at the disassembled parts of our society's engine, allowing us to decide Which parts have not been working and need retooling? In Conversations with God, much of this is explored in this message here, CWG Core Message 23. There are 5 fallacies about life that create crisis, violence, killing, and war. First, the idea that humans are separate from each other. Second, the idea that there is not enough of what human needs to be happy. Third, the idea that in order to get the stuff of which there is not enough, human beings must compete with each other. Fourth, the idea that some human beings are better than other human beings. Fifth, the idea that it is appropriate for human beings to resolve severe differences created by all the other fallacies by killing each other. The intent of Core Message 23 is to lay out in very specific terms, without generalizations or gauzy language, without ambiguity or dancing around the subject, the root cause of the behaviors that have triggered, in this case, an unhappily appropriate word, humanity's continually angry and violent interactions. Remember, Core Message 23 was given in direct response to my urgent question the day after 9/11. I, like the rest of the world, desperately wanted to know, how could human beings do this to each other? The problem, God tells us here succinctly, is that we have embraced as truth a small but amazingly damaging list of fallacies regarding life on Earth. 5 of those glaring errors will be discussed in this chapter, and I'll expand on more, which are even more critical, in the next. Why bother looking at such dismal stuff? For the same reason one looks at an engine that is no longer working as it should. You can't fix the problem if you don't know what the problem is. Of course, if one has no interest in fixing the problem, or if one is perfectly satisfied with the way things are and does not even agree that a problem exists, then one would have no interest in looking more deeply at our present circumstance. You know where you are on that scale, and that will determine whether you hear what is ahead as important diagnostic news, helping you and your world become healthier and healthier, or as information in which you have no interest. Our first fallacy about life. The first mistake humanity has made is imagining that its members are separate from each other. This thought derives from the idea that humanity is separate from God. Not everyone believes that there is a God, of course, but of those who do believe in God, by far the highest number believe that God separated us from her for reasons about which he has not been entirely clear. Hence, we may not know exactly why, but we do know that God has removed us from paradise, sent us down to earth, and here we all are now trying to get back. This may be a simplistic way to lay it out, but this is the way most of our belief systems about God have put it in basic terms. Some belief systems even try to clarify why this has happened. They say that God kicked us out of the Garden of Eden because our spiritual parents, presumably Adam and Eve, sinned. Their sin was that they dared to acquire the knowledge of good and evil, thus to become like gods. God would have none of this hubris, the story goes, and so the first humans and all of their progeny thereafter forevermore were punished by being made to live in an environment of both good and evil until we mended our ways, sought forgiveness for any evil in which we found ourselves engaged, and were allowed to return to the realm or the ultimate reality where only that which is good existed. What really happened? Okay. So now let's look at what is actually true about all of this. The following discussion is not a detour or a diversion from the main topic here. Getting our story straight about our relationship with God is extremely important because that story forms our ideas about ourselves and each other. Because we think we are separate from God, we imagine that we live in a universe of separation, that this is, in fact, the fundamental construction of things, the essential configuration, the basic organization, and the nature of the universe. This is at once the most pervasive and the most damaging idea our species has ever conceived. And that is why God took so much time with me in explaining what I have come to call the actuality of reality. It was made clear to me that there are 3 realms in the kingdom of God. Most human beings who believe in God and in the existence of such a kingdom at all imagine that it contains 2 realms, namely heaven and hell. Most believers do not include the earth or any of the known universe as part of God's kingdom. They classify all of this as the physical realm, which God created. And they think of God's kingdom as the spiritual realm or the other world or the other side, etc. This is the configuration of separation that I just spoke about. It is this dramatic misunderstanding of the nature of things that produced our story that God cast us out of the spiritual realm in which we lived as spiritual beings, and that we are now forced to live in the physical realm as physical beings until our death, when we return to the spiritual realm, and hopefully that part of the spiritual realm called heaven, not that part called hell, where we spend the rest of eternity. As I alluded to earlier, exactly why our species has been thrown out of paradise of heaven, exactly why the spiritual realm also includes this place we call hell or Hades, and exactly what it takes to make sure we find ourselves in the first place rather than the second after our death, is the subject and focus of most of the world's religions. My understandings of all of this changed dramatically after my conversations with God. I was told that God did not kick us out of paradise, although it is true that each of us have left the realm of the spiritual and entered the realm of the physical. Our souls have done this quite voluntarily and, in fact, happily as a part of the process of life itself. Here is the setup, and here is the process explained as God explained it to me in metaphor so that the human mind can understand. Let's move through this narrative point by point. Okay, I think I can read a little bit more. A new understanding. There's 4 points. There are 3 realms in the kingdom of God, not 2. The place we call hell is not one of them. Such a place does not, in fact, exist. 2, the kingdom of God is not separate from the physical universe and from our world, but includes it. Number 3, the 3 realms of God's kingdom are the realm of the spiritual, the realm of the physical, and the realm of pure being. This 3rd realm might loosely be described as the first 2 combined. The purpose of these 3 realms is to offer life itself. Read that, God. 3 ways in which it may manifest and experience itself, by which triad process it may know and express itself completely. The biggest secret of life is that it is a triad. Most of us have thought of it as a dyad or a duality. Even in our physical realm, we tend to think of things as black and white, when in fact there is gray, the part that is both. Maturity is achieved when we stop seeing everything as absolutes, black and white, right and wrong, yes and no, stop and go, here and there, now and then, etc. We will look more closely at this in just a bit. Okay, I think this is a good place to pause, anyone.
Where did he go?
Well, who would like to start?
I think this is when Linda just was reading this go wrong and right, and this, it's just this movement, it's just how do you say, it's just to be in some kind of well. It's this putting pressure on ourselves with right and wrong, good and bad and everything. And I think it's just very much part, because it very much echoed with me as I heard this. And so I just thought it's always good to find out that we are still conditioned with this, and that we have to be always aware that we are also inside. And when we are inside or doing it, that we can step outside, that we like just to watch our behavior also. Yeah, something like this.
It's the transition from and or thinking to both and thinking. Like I have a friend on Facebook who will set up the dichotomy and then basically say, no, it's both and. It's like we're living in a both and world. And that's what this is talking about. Like the third thing of pure being includes the other two, the spiritual and the physical. And that's like when we comprehend the wholeness, which it's like, here's this or that, and that is a false dichotomy. And really it's this and that, and the encompassing awareness of the wholeness. That's what I got. Everything is a part of the one thing.
Or inclusion versus exclusion.
I don't have anything to say because I was too busy trying to find my space in the computer version of Kindle. So I don't have anything to offer. What was the last part that we read? I mean, you don't have to reread the whole thing, but like the last paragraph.
It's
Okay.
on page 64.
Right, so the last, well, I'll read the new understanding, right? A new understanding. There are 3 realms of the kingdom of God, not 2, and the place we call hell is not one of them. Such a place does not, in fact, exist. The kingdom of God is not separate from the physical universe and from our world, but includes it. The 3 realms of God's kingdom are the realm of the spiritual, the realm of the physical, and the realm of pure being. This third realm might loosely be described as the first 2 combined. 4 is the purpose of the 3 realms is to offer life itself, read that God, 3 ways in which it may manifest and experience itself, by which triad process it may know and express itself completely.
Okay.
The biggest secret of life is that it is a triad. Most of us have thought of it as a dyad or duality. Even in our physical realm, we tend to think of things as black and white, when in fact, there is gray, the part that is both. Maturity is achieved when we stop seeing everything as absolutes, black and white, right and wrong, yes and no, stop and go, here and there, now and then, etc. We'll look at this more closely in a bit.
Okay, and while I was listening, I was thinking that, did anybody watch Neale's? Neale was on Facebook yesterday, Facebook Live, and he was talking about the law of opposites, because we wouldn't be the reason I'm bringing this up is it kind of seems to contradict what's just said here. But what he said was that without cold, we can't know hot. Without tall, we can't know short. Without, you know, on and on. And I don't know if it's because I wasn't fully paying attention because I was lost in the pages. But what is he contradicting himself?
That's the truth of the physical realm, which is sort of a place of duality. Like that's what it says in the Tao Te Ching, right? The opposites exist, because in the non-physical, none of that exists. Like, how do you know what tall or short is when you're in non-physical? Those things don't exist. The mere concepts are completely irrelevant. So we come into physical to experience what we can't experience in non-physical. And that's where the oppositions come into being, because how can we know, what short is without tall and what tall is without short? So that's my understanding from things I've read.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes more sense to me now. It was the duality was the world of duality versus the world of non-duality.
Yeah.
Does everyone believe that there's not a hell?
Yes, I believe there's not a hell.
Yeah, I don't believe in one either.
Well, here's what I believe. If you believe in hell, maybe it exists for you. That's what I believe. Maybe God will give you hell if that's what you want.
Well, he says that as much in the book Home with God, which is my all-time favorite book he's ever written. He says if you believe in a hell, then you will have the hell of your thinking.
Because you've created it.
Yeah,
like keep thinking about it. I'm going hell, I'm going hell, I'm going hell.
Exactly. And for me, the reason the book one was so appealing is it was clearly drawn out, because even as a child, I had a very difficult time believing there was such a place if God loved us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure Neale's written about it, but if God excuses Hitler, then I would think that God would excuse the devil or Satan or whatever you want to call it.
Call him Lucifer. That was his name.
Yep. Which always
Lucifer.
Yeah, but it always weirded me out when there was a saint named Saint Luke. Because I thought, what's going on? But anyway,
they're all just mental constructs.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct. And actually, since we're getting to the end of the hour, I want to read something, if you don't mind. And it's something I'm sure you've all heard by now that Thich Nhat Hanh died, and it's a big loss. But he was 95 years old and had a good life.
Yeah.
And somebody passed something on to me that I think is really a critical. It's not long at all, so it won't take me but a minute. but it's a poem called This Body Is Not Me by Thich Nhat Hanh. This body is not me. I am not limited by this body. I am life without boundaries. I have never been born and I have never died. Look at the ocean and the sky filled with stars, manifestations from my wondrous true mind. Since before time, I have been free. Birth and death are only doors through which we pass, sacred thresholds on our journey. Birth and death are a game of hide and seek. So laugh with me, hold my hand. Let us say goodbye. Say goodbye to meet again soon. We meet today. We will meet again tomorrow. We will meet at the source every moment. We meet each other in all forms of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually thought about this particular poem once it was handed to me, because Neale is now about ready to, I'm not sure if it started yet, but he's doing a master class with Michael Beckwith called Discover Your Soul's Purpose. And they kind of talk about what that poem is about. You know, I'm not dying. I'm not, in the clinical sense, our body will quit working, but the essence of us is our soul. And that continues on. And anyway, I thought it was an important thing to add, or I wouldn't have said it. So,
and I agree.
I would love to say something about that.
Yes, go ahead.
I loved that poem because I was thinking if I had something to share, but because it's so difficult for me to do that, because these books, Conversation with God books, has been mirrors of what I have gotten since I was a child. I have this teaching from inside that we are united, there is no separation, and I have lived in that special energy frequency for so long alone. So this poem was, yes, that was very, very good ending of this. And it gave me a possibility to say something. And I don't know how many people who read these books today here in Sweden, not in my network, but we are a group meeting who are frequency hiring. We are meeting in the spiritual field, and that is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that poem. That was beautiful.
Well, thank you for liking it.
Nanny, can you send it out, the poem? When you send us some information, would be nice.
Yes, I will. I think one of the things that's so beautiful about that poem, and we know there's no accidents, that I would find it the day after he died, the day
Synchronicity.
Crossed over.
Yeah.
Synchronicity.
And
happens all the time to me.
It'll be a poem that I will want my children to read when I cross over.
Nice.
Is that I'm still here.
That'll be very nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody here has watched I was in a film festival film, and it was about the death of my mother. And one of the things that, and I do have it on my Facebook page if you're interested in watching it, it's 18 minutes long. It was a very interesting experience to be filmed. And at the very end of this video or this film, I repeat something that my mother said to me because I was really worried about her. There was a couple things I was worried about. I was worried about the fact that I would remember her as a sick woman. And I did not want to remember that. I wanted to remember that vibrant, wonderful woman who I would choose again and will choose again. But her, one thing she would say to me, and this was right before she died, a couple of days, and I picked up her hand and put it on my face, and she wasn't very lucid. And she goes, "Well, honey, what's wrong?" And I said, "I'm gonna miss you so much. You know, how am I gonna get through this?" And she said, "Honey, everything's gonna be okay. You need to always remember that death is no less miraculous of an event than birth, and that we should remember that, and we should live that way."
Yeah.
And it's a continuation. And so when I read that poem by Tick, I felt like there's another poem that just speaks to me and says, yes, you know, or another reading. And I think because I mentioned Home with God before, and what Linda refreshed my memory here of what we were talking about, it's these kinds of things that just, they grab me. And I'm really glad, Dima, that you appreciated that. And I will send it out to everybody because it's a good one. And
great, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Now that I've talked myself silly here, Mary, would you like to close us out, or does anybody want to stay on and discuss more, or are we at a good stopping point?
I have to leave.
Stopping point. Yeah, she's letting us go.
Okay. All right, Mary, take it away.
Yes, it's good.
I wanted to say there was a Thich Nhat Hanh poem that I saw on Facebook today that was different than the one you saw. And I don't really remember, but I remember the concept, and this might not be exactly what was in it, but it was sort of like, I'm the earthworm in the dirt, and I'm the bird that swoops down and eats the earthworm. Like he starts off more sort of general, like I'm the sky and the ocean and all, but then it becomes like,
I'm a tree, I'm the ocean.
It becomes the opposites, you know, like, and he even says something like the person who's, you know, downtrodden and the person who's like stepping on them. Those aren't the words he uses. But it was, I mean, if I remember when I see you send out the thing, Nanette, or I'll send it to you to send out with it, or I'll send it either way. Because it was a beautiful poem too, to remind us of who we are and how we are a part of this creation. You know, it's like there's the web, there's the net of life, and we're all little blips of energy, but we're all connected in the web. You know, none of us is separate on our own little island. None of us is really the separate being that it feels like we are when we're sort of battling with all the other separate beings. We are all life, love. To me, that's the same, the animating energy of the universe. And that doesn't disappear when we die. Like, that's a physics things, right? Energy can't be created or destroyed. It matter, something, energy, matter, just changing forms, right? Changing forms. It's not created or destroyed. So here we are right now. We are here in these physical bodies. And who is the we that is in these physical bodies? You know, the we are a little spark of the divine, of the all in all, that has jumped into this body for this lifetime. And we get to be here and share together our knowing our knowing of who we are, which oftentimes as we're going about life in the world, it can get very distracting. And it can be easy to forget that this is who we really are. Who we really are is this group, this web of connection, that energy that is here together. Remembering who we are and connecting with that on a deep level. And then, you know, this sustains us for the week. Well, we have other things too, but this is a really big one, that we can take this energy with us. You know, remember to be this energy as we go out into the world and live our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And thank you, everybody. And thank you. We welcome you, Lana. We hope you come back. And
That was wonderful.
okay. I love you all. And I was trying to think how many years we've been doing this now.
Oh, God.
But it's been a lot. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't know exactly, but I know it's getting close to 10 years.
Well, when did you join Facebook?
Well, it would be more like, when did I become part of Humanity's Team, which was in 2007.
I think your Facebook is to say 8, or didn't it?
I was on Facebook before I was in Humanity's Team.
Oh, okay. That
But
was
well, it might say 2008. But
no, I'm not on Facebook anymore.
Yeah, I love it. But I love it for all the positive things. I don't go digging into political stuff and whatnot. So anyway, we will see each other next week.
Yay.
And have a great week, everybody, and we'll talk then. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
Bye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Good time. Good week.
Bye.
Ditto.